So I think yoga and meditation helped change my life. It was a big catalyst for change. I guess I have to go back to my daughter and a letter that I got from her, and it says, "Dear Daddy, you're a daddy, we love you. Why don't you give this life of crime, prison, drugs, etc." In my 50s, and I'd been in prison many times. It was like an occupational hazard, but this time, sitting in a prison cell, something got to me, and I thought, you know what, this has to change. And also, I'd been a drug addict for 40 years and a drug smuggler nearly as long. So I think that to take that step, to leave everything drug-wise, which was my past, really, and also it was my future, because I would be in prison for at least another 7 years. In the library in the prison, I picked up a book written by Richard Hittelman, and it was about yoga, the 28-day exercise plan. I still use the same book, and some of the wisdom in it appeals to me. Yoga and meditation. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I practice yoga and some meditation. Mostly yoga with a little meditation. And that was just starting up my day for me. And each day I did that for the next 20 years. Yoga has probably helped keep me alive, especially the breathing and the meditation and the stillness. Shortly after the yoga practice, I met a Quaker chaplain in prison, and she said, "My name's Carol, I'm the Quaker chaplain." And I said, "I know what a chaplain is, but what's a Quaker? I've no idea." So I guess that something about her way of being that inspired me, and I got to meet her once a month for a year and a half or so, till I moved prison again. She would often say to me, "Walk in the light, be in the light." And I think that the light that we're talking about, or the inner light as I would call it, started from yoga, really, and some meditation and some practice, to looking at a candle, the flame, for a minute and a half, then close your eyes and visualize the image of the light. But that was just a little practice. But also, because of that, something evolved with the light within through yoga and the practice of it. So there was an inner light evolving within me that I wasn't really aware of. Now, when I met the Quaker chaplain, she said, "Walk in the light, be in the light," I did say to myself, I don't know what she's talking about, but I think what she's talking about is the inner light that's available to everyone, but not everyone is aware of or want to. So I think yoga and Quakerism, so mind, body and spirit, peace, equality, simplicity and truth, all those things I try to walk by and with. Sitting in that prison cell, and the decision, well, I was still taking drugs. I thought, my daughter and her sisters don't deserve this. And I'm repeating myself, but I said to myself, I don't deserve it either. This has to change. So I made the steps to change. I stopped taking everything. I sat in a prison cell on my own with a little bag of heroin for 3 days. You can't imagine, and I can't remember, the power that had, the amount of times I wanted to reach for that little bag of heroin over those 3 days. It wasn't a great big amount, but it was heroin. And I thought, the battle that I went through with myself, with the bag of heroin, I overcame it. At the end of the 3 days, I changed it for a bit of tobacco, because I was still smoking, but I didn't take the heroin. So that was that power over the addiction that I'd walked away from. And I walked away from everything. Smoking, I gave up a bit later. But I think that when you say it takes a lot of strength, when you actually know that it's right, and whatever you're going through becomes a sideline for it, and you just go on from it and to it. So I stopped taking everything. I got involved with art, so I went to the art room 5 days a week. I spoke to the governor of the prison and said, do you think I could go to college and do an adult access course? And he said, you're in your 50s, right? You're a heroin addict. You've been sentenced to 18 years for smuggling drugs, and you want to go to college? I said, well, it's where I can learn. That's why I want to go, not for anything else. So I went to arrange for me to have a pass for the day, to meet the people at college, some of the lecturers, etc. And they said the same thing. You've been a drug addict, you're a drug smuggler, you're a prisoner, you've still got some years to go ahead of you, and you want to come to college. I said, well, yeah, because I want to learn. So they asked me to leave the room, and I left the room, and about 5 or 10 minutes later they called me back in, and they said, we've decided to offer you a place on the adult access course. So that's from yoga and Quakers and art coming together, a union. So here I am talking to a prison governor to let me go to a college for a day. And I was in an open prison by then. And something just happened, and they let me go. So I got the bus every morning from the prison and back again every night. Now, once upon a time in my life, if they let me go out the door once, I'm never going to go back. But this time was different, because I never felt the need to run away from anything anymore. And that is partly because of yoga, partly because of Quakers, and partly because of art. And, of course, my daughter's letter. The Prison Phoenix Trust, I'd have been practicing yoga for a wee while. I saw a letter in prison, a letter from the Prison Phoenix Trust, so I picked it up and I read it, and I wrote back to them. And I never saw a yoga teacher in prison, but I did get a response from someone from the Prison Phoenix Trust, writing back to me about yoga, what it's doing for you, what it has done for you, and what it can do for you, etc. So a lot of support came through the Prison Phoenix Trust. And I look forward to the letters from them once a month or so with eagerness, because it was a different place from prison. It was a journey, and it was the same person that I was writing to and who wrote back to me. Sadly, I can't remember her name because my memory is a bit shattered for different reasons, especially because of a stroke that left me in a position where for a while I couldn't barely speak. I couldn't read, I couldn't write. At the stroke hospital, the speech therapists were the ones who inspired me really to, not to learn again, but to remember. Speech therapist said to me, looking through your records, we see you're an artist. And she had a piece of paper and a pencil. So I looked at the paper and I looked at her, and then she said, can you draw a dog? And I looked at her and looked back at the paper and I said, I had no idea. So I made this little practice from Quaker practice. When you come to meeting with hearts and minds prepared, when you join the meeting, center down to a still place within. That was one of the first things I remembered. And sitting in that still place, the answer came, can I draw a dog? So this little tattoo is a kind of doggy-like creature, but it so inspired me that I was able to actually do something like that from my subconscious, and then that comes back to yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and the actual practice, mind, body, and spirit. I wouldn't say I was an enlightened person, but I'm much more enlightened than I ever was, that's for sure. Thank you for the support and the love and the truth that was offered. It was, you can't make these things up. It was just a beautiful experience. And I've seen quite strong, muscle-bound men from the gym turn into yoga and meditation. And I'm thinking, so the answer is there within. And that's where the mind, body and spirit comes into it for me. So that union to oneself is powerful.